Much like yesterday, it's super fucking late at night, technically early in the morning. My throat's still a little bit sore. I still have no idea what the fuck's going on in general. So, took a sip of water. So I'm gonna be probably more. No, I'll still be negative. I felt evil last time because, oh, I'm just being a negative asshole and changing shit about stuff people evidently like reading. So I'm gonna be a negative asshole about and change shit about stuff I like reading. All of fantasy as a whole. I remember very little. I was really tired, but I had to re-listen to it just to make sure I didn't say some crazy shit and end up having to scrap it. I don't know how to edit shit. I remember mentioning that I do not like cyberpunk or future settings. I stand by that. I'm going crazy because I just finished up Deep Rock with some friends and I hear a fucking crystal in my right ear. Fucking resonance crystals, man. Uh, uh, I didn't like cyberpunk, or I don't like cyberpunk or future settings. And much prefer fantasy to either of them. I think what you can do in both those settings, you can do in fantasy. Not as well, maybe, but you can still do them. And I much prefer the aesthetic and on some of the other background shit. I'm not a tech guy. I'm not chroming the fuck up Choom or whatever they say in that show that I didn't watch. I've heard it was good though. It had like a fully grown woman, but she looked young in it, and that made me feel weird because that's gross. Uh, and then I just didn't talk about fantasy tropes. So fantasy tropes, we all know what they are. I say fantasy. I mentioned it last time. I say fantasy. You think of like The Hobbit. Think of elves and orcs and dwarves and humans and maybe halflings too, if you remember they exist, and maybe sometimes gnomes, though gnomes can differ from thing to thing. Maybe you get the Hyperborean Agarthan space gnomes, right? That bore wormholes in between this reality and the next. Maybe you just get fucking idiots in red caps that eat mushrooms all day. Or Smurfs. Shit, are Smurfs just gnomes? Huh. Anyway, take a sip of water. There's a bunch of like issues I have with that typical Hobbit like uh stock background for your story. My biggest issue is it's too prominent now. It was kind of cool when just Tolkien did it because well, I guess because he did it first. Uh, it is important when I rant about this shit to remember I have never seen The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings, or have I read The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings. Uh, but I still know what goes on because everybody replicates them ad nauseum. We got the super graceful, super long living, wise, mystical ass elves. We have the homegrown, cloistered off, tradition loving dwarves, which I like that more than I like the elf stuff. We got the gluttonous, foul vermin that are halflings. Orcs are evil, which I don't think orcs being evil is a problem, which I'll touch on later. Which people will disagree on, at least from what I've seen in writing circles, mostly like the Reddit shit. So I mean, how accurate is it really? And well, humans are boring, or are they? Hey, Vsauce, Michael here. What is a human? And then I go on like a really cool video that leaves you engaged. His ads on like fuck, what was it he showed me? His like ad content is weird. He tries to sell you like what was it, towels or something? I don't know. I don't, a guy I know. This sounds weirder because I can't say his name. A guy I know showed me some of the ads that Vsauce does, and he's like shirtless in all of them. He's got a lot of chest hair. Kind of weird. Why does he do that? Anyway, I forgot what I was gonna say. Something about elves and dwarves and evil orcs, but not now. Thank you. There's a guy in the background. You can't hear him. He's talking to me. And not just the crazy, insane old voices in my head. Let me just make sure. Bam, all the way to zero. But like the typical Hobbit setting, it's not a bad setting at all, right? Five races is pretty much the maximum you can write about, I think, right? Like write about with any amount of A certainty, B like world building to flesh out. Especially if you're gonna be like stuck with one race. And I think having a bunch more races works if you're doing an anthology, but then you're beholden to the rules and restrictions of an anthology, which not a lot of people like anthologies and stuff. I don't mind it, but that's probably just because I like doing one shots and multi shots in D&D. So I'm like, oh, a self-contained story. How quaint! And I pick it apart like a delectable meal, like my final meal. Um, oh man, I forgot the joke I was gonna say. I said it like 13 hours ago this day. Something about fucking eat maxing or whatever. It was stupid. I love it. Uh, but oh man, I immediately forgot. Nope, I remember. Like it isn't a bad idea to have your perspective swap around from race to if you're doing an anthology, right? If you're doing just like one story, like one self-contained story or like a trilogy or something, because everybody loves trilogies. I don't think FNAF should have ended at FNAF 3, actually. I like the current, I like most of the current, okay, I don't, maybe it should have ended at 3. No, 4 was a nice place to end it. Anyway, if you're doing like itself, like an actual tale, like one consistent through line story with themes and motifs and things of that nature, then I don't think you should swap perspectives around, or at least if you do, not drastically, right? It should be stuck to important characters in the story you've laid out already. If you're doing an anthology, however, I think it's better if you go ahead and make a perspective of a bunch of different races, like especially ones that vary or even clash at times. Uh, sure, you may be thinking, but it's just an anthology. Who gives a damn about my world building? The reader will give a lot. The reader will give a damn about your world building, like a considerable amount. I should know. I'm a reader. You couldn't see it like I popped my collar like an asshole in a greaser film. Uh, your reader will give a shit about stuff like that. Uh, you know, like picking on bits of your world building because everybody likes world building, right? I like doing world building for my stories, for my D&D, or just like a thing in the background. I like looking at other people's world building in their stories or their D&D, or just like things in the background. Like Spec Evo is fucking awesome. Speculative evolution. If you don't, I'm using slang, guys. Put up the video of the calculator. Calculus for calculator, by the way. Using slang. Yeah, I don't need to pull up the video. I just explained it. Uh, but like, world building's fun to look at and participate. Well, I guess. Well, yeah, participate in. You can always just make shit up, and just keep it in a notebook or something. But stuff like Kappa World of Turtles on YouTube or the Dragon Slayer Codex also on YouTube. Well, it's also a book now, I think. Like that's fun to just pick through, even if it doesn't have a definite story attached to it. But given that I'm talking primarily about stories, well, I guess D&D counts too, because I'll keep mentioning it. But because I'm talking primarily about stories, having characters to ground your world building and interact with it consistently is great. I got off topic on the anthology so quick, so let's just fucking get rid of the anthology thing altogether and let's talk about actual stories. Uh, let's even talk about what tropes are. Let's not do that. You know what a trope is. Let's talk about the tropes. Cause shit, you might not read fantasy like I read fantasy. You don't know Memphis like I know Memphis. I don't from that fucking band. Yeah, I guess. Anyway, like some of like the tropes I'm talking about. I mentioned the Hobbit setting, right? the typical stagnant, stuck in European medieval historical time period, but also magic and dragons exist. Like that is, I argue that's probably a trope at this point. I don't know if it's a separate word really, but I mean, you think of fantasy, that's what you think of, right? Um, I've never seen what's it called? Game of Thrones, and I've never read A Song of Ice and Fire, but I know that it doesn't have magic, but I know it has dragons. Uh, at least I don't think it has magic. I know, I'm pretty sure it's stuck in the medieval European Iron Age era. I think they explicitly can't make steel, which is kind of cool. Uh, the man in my head has corrected me. There is steel. They just forgot about it. Something along those lines. I think also someone in like a YouTube short told me that too. Um, but that is an interesting thing. See how that takes the issue with stagnant medieval era and then puts a fun twist on it, such as, oh, why don't they have steel? Oh, it's forgotten, which is historically accurate, which is the last thing you should give a fuck about when you're. Historical accuracy is the last thing you should give a fuck about when you're writing a story, right? I'll just put that out there right now. You're writing fantasy. Who gives a fuck? Like, you're here you're here to write fantasy. Your readers are here to read fantasy. They fucking love dragons. You even mention a dragon in that shit, they go crazy. Why else did they call it Dungeons and Dragons when it was just originally a mod for chainmail? That's weird to think about a mod for a tabletop game. Dragons are a huge selling point. You don't have to have dragons, but the point I'm trying to make is don't go into fantasy thinking it must be realistic. Because if it's realistic, holy shit, things are fucked. Like they're bad, comically bad if it's realistic. You're you're of a low-born family's simple protagonist is never making it off the farm. Everybody will want his blood, and God forbid, help it if it's a woman main character. I mean, obviously that's not encouraging anything. Lord only knows you have too many grimdark clowns trying their hand and just ending up being cringe lord losers that worship Heath Ledger's the Joker. Or God forbid, what was his name? He played Morbius. That Joker, what? Jared Leto, that guy. Or God forbid they look up to Jared Leto's the Joker. You know that I'm gonna beam an image in your brain. It's the image of that guy who got the Joker face tattoos, and he took a picture of himself like leaning against the wall of the tattoo parlor's mirror, and he put down some sort of edgy ass caption. Oh man, that image is fucking awesome. I got distracted immediately. Um, when you're like, I see a lot of people trying to like do fantasy, and they want to like be but it's realistic to do X thing. Who gives a fuck? You're the story writer. You are literally weaving the threads of fate together to make something bitchin'. So make something bitchin' and not lame. Another trope you see often. This is gonna get into one of those things that pisses like me off specifically, like how I mentioned that thing about the joke slaps with Lit RPG. I am fucking sick of giant spiders. I'm not arachnophobic. I want to put that out there immediately. I eat bugs. That are safe to eat that you can buy for eating to make sure that you're not gonna get a parasite. It's like be safe. Don't drink the bug milk. You guys know the bug milk post on the Reddit bug milk post? Oh man, that bug milk post is so awesome. I'm peeking so often. But I see seeing the huge spider. And you know what it came from? It came from J.R.R. Tolkien. What does his name stand for? It came from J.R.R. Tolkien because he wrote what's her name? Shelob or something? The big spider in the woods. Uh, he swears up and down, or so I've read somewhere, that he did not write it because of a fear of spiders. However, as a young child, he was bitten by a spider, and it fucked with him pretty heavily. So that's why he puts big spiders in his words. in his works, in his, well, not in his, I guess he does put spiders in his works, but like because he did it, because the grandfather of fantasy. Do people call him that still? Did anybody ever call him that, or did I just gaslight myself into thinking that in his immediate moment? But because the Grandpa Nurgle's fetid blessings upon you. But because the grandfather of fantasy, J.R.R. Tolkien, put big spiders in his works, suddenly I must put Big Spider in my work. And it must be the big spider in the evil forest. And I'll touch on the evil blank location in the next thing I talk about. But the reason I'm sick of giant spiders is because I see it everywhere. I'm I will admit to being a bit of a contrarian. Popular thing is popular. I don't like it. I've never read or watched The Hobbit. I'm contrarian kind of by not doing that. But I'm sick of seeing this fuck ass spider everywhere. And importantly, uh, it's not the most interesting arachnid. You want a cool big arachnid? You use use a scorpion, not a spider. Use a scorpion. Scorpions are arachnids, despite what you may think. And the stinger is what makes it here. That's cool. Spiders, they got what? The spinneret? They got the webs? You gotta do that shit ahead of time. Scorpion? Fucker wants your blood. It's like a boar. But, like, only if he's that big. Because, well, I was about to say insects, then you have a fucking pedant saying, oh, it's an arachnid. Yeah, I know that. Bugs and little critters don't give a fuck about nothing. All right, input GIF of a praying mantis eating another praying mantis. Here is a fun fact: it is not just the females that do it to the males. It is also not a normal thing they do. It's a stress response to getting looked at by humans. Uh, that's not supposed to happen. It's like with the alpha wolves thing. Same with Black Widow spy. Well, no, they actually do that. Like even without us watching. But Black Widow spiders, it isn't just the women eat the males. The males do it too. They just fucking eat each other. Crabs eat their babies, right? And crabs are the insects of the sea. Shrimps eat the. So if you're gonna do like a big evil creature, have like, well, obviously it's not evil, it's an animal, right? But show it doing Animal Kingdom shit. Like Animal Kingdom shit is crazy. Like like you know that fucking parasitic wasp? Have that be the big creature. You know what? Yeah, forget the scorpion, forget the spider. Big parasitic wasp. That's fucked up. And then you get to do the option if you want to do a cool zombie thing of the parasites take over the people. Doesn't that sound way more interesting than a Shelob knockoff for the 17 millionth time? To the thing I was gonna speak on next about. To the dismay of many, I have remembered my train of thought. The evil forest or the evil mountains. He called it Mount Doom. He could not be subtle if he tried. The evil forest or the evil mountains or the evil desert. I'm waving my hand. That's my voice warbled a little bit. Or fucking, you know what should be evil? The ocean. The ocean's fucked up and twisted. I'm sick of seeing the Forbidden Woods. I'm sick of seeing the Forbidden Sands. Because you know what okay, I'm gonna say shit like, oh, because you know what your character's gonna do. They're gonna ignore the forbidden aspect. I say that right, knowing damn well, yeah, a story's gotta happen. Oh, isn't it very convenient that X character was in X location to witness Y event? Yes, it was. That's how we have stories. I'm aware of that, so when I say shit like, oh, why do they immediately ignore X thing? I understand it's to have a story. However, I'm sick of seeing this convention specifically, so I'm here to argue. I'm here to be a dick. Uh, I'm sick of seeing that huge ass fucking thick swath of pine-tipped trees off swaying in the distance that you can't walk into because every single thing that is bad lives there. I took some water. And sure, that might be an over-exaggeration. And you know what? maybe it is. However, I see it so often enough that I think we should just throw out the baby with the bathwater. We should just throw out the evil forest as a whole, because then we get to have pockets of evil all around in our story, and we don't have to contrive an excuse to go to the one very known place where the bad shit happens. Why would I ever go there? Why, like, as if I was a dwarf, I would be happy, first of all. But if I was a dwarf, I would never go to the Forbidden Woods. That shit's forbidden. That will kill me. There's big spiders there. Uh, huh, my throat. Oh, Jesus Christ. I gotta stop talking. I'm sure many people would love that. Shout out to my haters. They're right. Uh, but uh, I don't like the concept of this is the area. Harry Potter is very prominent. It's been in the back of my mind. I was like, should I mention it? Fuck it, I'll mention it. The Forbidden Forest. However, that's where your detentions happen. Okay, is it forbidden or not? If it's so forbidden, why do I have to go there in detention? Is it actually forbidden, or is it like a supervision thing? Because there's unicorns in there that are like endangered, and there's also, well, I guess Voldemort got killed again. What? There were centaurs that fucking hate people. Why? Why do centaurs still live as like nomadic Mongol warrior guys when the wizards just live in a house? That's kind of fucked, no? So, I guess we're gonna move on to that topic. The technological disparity between races in fantasy. This will depend heavily on your setting, because sometimes you will not have things like dragons or a canonized hell where demons actually exist from and pop into the material plane to fucking kill people. Or ontologically evil races, which isn't the worst issue, but it's also not the best thing to put in your story. I am on the fence on ontologically evil races. Ugh, holy shit. Oh, never mind. Uh, I almost went on a tangent about Hunt Showdown because I saw something on my timeline. Thankfully, I misread it. However, that game only gets worse. That will be tomorrow's rant. I will rant for 2 hours about Hunt Showdown. So, a technological disparity between races. If there is, say, a literal, actual, verifiable hell where demons actually come from and just want to fucking kill people, and we don't do the debate and switch like that one person on YouTube named it. I guess this wouldn't really be a debate and switch, where we don't do the debate and switch, as I'll continue to call it regardless, where, oh no, guys, the demons were actually just really looking for a new home, and we were the bad guys all along. First of all, Howard take. Brain rot take. You just want to fuck succubi, and you will go to hell over it, and there will be no succubi. Or as me, based in holy Roman Catholic, will be going to, well, I'm not going to heaven. But if I was, I would be moral grandstanding you right now. But onto the thing I'm here to talk about. In these settings where hell is real and there are demons that you would want to kill before they even get close to you, why are we not propagating cooperation between races? And I'm not going to say, oh, I'm peeking again. And I'm not going to say every story needs that. Because, like I said last time, sometimes it's good. Like, I don't remember what I said last time. Sometimes that's an interesting plot point to have. Yeah. Why don't they? Why don't they all work together? And you can make that a unique story beat. However, because again, I'm going off of the broad general strokes and not saying this is every story. However, most of the stories I end up reading don't have that as a plot point, and instead, oh god, and instead, orcs are wielding clubs and slings. Dwarves are walking around fortifying their strongholds with ballistas and hwachas. Elves are doing, well, they're not doing it intentionally, it's just what the writer ends up writing. Elves are doing fucking hit and run, fucking bombing tactics with magic and arrows. Humans have like naval artilleries. I'm probably describing seven worlds right now. But you see what I'm saying? See how different they all are from each other? However, demons. Demons. Why don't they fucking help each other? Because, hey, I don't want to die from demons. You also don't want to die from demons. You see, like a thing we can have going on? Dwarves, you love money. You want to trade your shit with us so we can also not die from demons? So you have a sustainable trading partner who wants to do this with you? Elves, fucking knife ears, fucking leaf lovers. I'll touch on elf hate later. We must maintain the agenda at all costs. Uh, cracks my knuckles. But, okay, first of all, before I continue forward, maces and clubs and slings and javelins. Javelins specifically, spears get their time in the limelight. Javelins don't. Maces, clubs, slings, and javelins do not get the respect they deserve in fantasy stories. It is always a magical sword. It is never an ancient macahuatl. I think that's how you pronounce that. I am Mexican with some light Aztec roots, but I still don't know how to pronounce that fucking weapon. That gnarly ass club with the obsidian shards on the side of it to act as almost like a machete that can reportedly decapitate a horse in one swing. That weapon should be the legendary weapon in so many more stories, as opposed to just another long sword. Or if you're gonna do a sword, have it be a cool sword, like a rapier or a small sword, or like a flamberge and a Zweihander. What's the or a Kopesh? Oh, me and this guy, we busted Kopesh at the same time. Or a Kopesh, because that's a bitchin' sword. They have such a unique shape and it looks interesting. Don't make it a katana. Love of God, don't make it a katana. I will continue to talk about the shitty fake Japan settings, because that's still fantasy. That'll come later. I don't like it, because it's... Well, first of all, it's written by white guys, so you get a whole thing there. And then, because it's written by white guys, who are the ultimate, like, how do I say this? Wastewater filtration plant for the idea that they think of. That was a bad analogy. I'll explain it later. Takes a sip of water. Um, there's like propagate cooperation more between your races, or if you don't, make it a cool plot point. Obviously, you don't have to have everything I say, right? Or so you have a checklist instead of a story. But consider my words. Was make your choice, Western man. Cooperation or adaptation, because it rhymes. What is the? It's not mm, or a rivalry. That's what I'm looking for. Uh, I could say more, but I'm losing my train of thought. Speaking of rivalry, let's immediately talk about the most prominent fantasy trope, even outside of fantasy, such as if you have these races in space, which I fully believe future settings and fantasy don't mix. I guess fantasy is like the biggest umbrella term for anything, but you know what I mean when I say fantasy. So the biggest rivalry in all of fantasy, maybe orcs and elves, maybe, but also not because less and less stories have orcs in them because of the implication that is falsely propagated. I'll talk about that later, maybe about the whole orcs are black people. Not really. They were originally Mongols with J.R.R. Tolkien. They were still racist depictions, but they were Mongols. Fun fact. Uh, so elves and dwarves. Knife ears and ground pounders, right? If you want to call them fantasy slurs. Well, there's other fantasy slurs for elves more so than dwarves. That isn't just like short stack and shit. Or what was it, like gem eater? I heard once. That was funny. The most prominent rivalry is between elves and no, between elves and dwarves. They sound very similar. Dwarf, orc. You see how they have the same fun fact that I mentioned last time that we'll continue to mention because I think it's actually kind of neat. In the Hobbit universe, whatever its official name is called, elves and dwarves were actually staunch allies for the vast majority of the world's history. It was only recently changed due to some war, where um, they became diametrically opposed. Now, like I said before, an alloy of two stronger than an ore of one. But I don't mind dwarves versus elves. First of all, because we must maintain the agenda of elf hate because it is funny. Not only because it is funny, but because of weebs. Elves have become the gooning waifu. I think more so than Kitsune, which I didn't think I'd see that day come, but it has. Vampires are still steadily up there. Lamia are still steadily up there. Arachne are still up there. Right. These are the waifus that if you say that, I look down. The slimes are up there. These are the waifus that if you say them, I look down upon you. If you say dwarf with your chest, you're a man, or whenever the fuck you identify it. You're cool, I guess. You're a man in that. You're a man in spirit. You're a dwarf. You're a true 4-4 royalty. That's your height and that's your status. Um, I got off topic again. Maintaining the agenda is funny. It is funny to play Deep Rock Galactic with some guys and be like, I fucking knife your technology as you see like the rivals and stuff. Like that's fun. Right? It's a fun meme that extends beyond fantasy. We don't have a lot of those that aren't lame as fuck because we're all huge nerds just reading stories in our dark ass rooms. So I don't think it's bad on the comedy section, and I don't think it's bad on the story section because the idea between elves and dwarves can be taken a few different ways. You could have dwarves be innovative, right? If you have the whole like they invented gunpowder, like a lot of settings do, and you could have the elves sticking to their time-honored magic and bows, be a sort of traditionalist versus advancing mindset. Or you could flip-flop it because everybody knows dwarves love their tradition, they love their ancestors. That's going in the Book of Grudges, shit like that. You can flip it if you'd like. Or if your main character isn't an elf or a dwarf, you could have if your main character is a human, you could have the elves be one sect of traditionalists, and you could have the dwarves be another kind of traditionalists. And that's the thing we failed to recognize in a lot of stories, is there are multiple shades of different things, and not everything has to have one extreme over the other. Looking at you, Fallout New Vegas. Slavers, a flawed government, an autocrat who doesn't believe in democracy, and total anarchy. How is this a debate 14 years later? According to an image I saw. Um, but you can have it be two separate types of traditionalists and like a fledgling empire that needs to have the backing of one of them, but for one reason or other does not want to or does not have like the political clout because they don't follow like asinine rule, and you could like be as a critique of the tradition and like insulting it, breaking away from it. Or you could go back to like, yeah, some traditions are cool. We still do feasts every winter. We've been doing that since we could think. Even before that, I feel. I have a whole rant about how food is like an important thing. Even nowadays, we have a whole fucking room dedicated to it. We have two if you count the kitchen. Uh, but you could have it be two different kinds of traditionalists. Or if you want to just focus on the dwarf, right? Or focus on just the alpha, it doesn't really matter which one. Within this traditionalist culture, there can be separate factions on you're the wrong kind of traditionalist. We are the we speak the truth, or you're twisting what this prominent king said, and instead we're the right. So basically, like either balkanizing or just like anything in Catholicism. Or, you could flip them instead of being traditional, you could have them be progressions, right? And then you go between them, or you could have these two long-standing grudgers. That sounds bad. Cultures with a grudge. Put that shit aside, right? There's a lot we can do with dwarves and elves, but You're not going to read that in most fantasy stories. What you're going to read is, haha, your ears are pointy. Haha, you're short. This is our character for the next 50 chapters. Because we're too afraid to give our separate races unique character traits, which I'll talk about later too. But the I see people getting sick of it. It's less people than the people that love it, right? We're still very much maintain the agenda. People who are sick of it are usually elf lovers, not implying anything, but they don't type with two hands. I'll tell you that much. They implied everything. What? Um, but the thing, but, right? I see people want to move away from the elves versus dwarves. You don't need to do the elves versus dwarves. You could have them have more interesting things than just not liking each other. But I think that looking at it as simply they don't like each other, how wacky, is very restrictive and narrow-minded. When instead we could look at it as, oh, they don't like each other. Why? And then go into it. Have interesting world building. Speaking of interesting, let's talk about what isn't interesting in a lot of these stories. The fucking characters. And you know why? Because they're not characters, they're caricatures. Like I mentioned. Haha, you are short. Ha, your ears are funny. This is my character for the next 50 chapters. I just resaid what I said, but the accent got swapped. Um, this is pretty much what you'll find for a lot of the elf and dwarf side characters, even side main characters in these fantasy stories that I find. Okay, remember, I refuse to spend money on shit and just look for what I can find online for free. So that might color my perspective a little bit, but maybe not because indie writing is the majority of writing. Uh, it's just like you don't probably read much of it. So the issue I see a lot, um, no, you'll never be able to see is like my hands are like making wild gestures. Um, the like if so let's go with dwarves first because I no let's end on dwarves because I can talk about dwarves more. Like not like oh I get to talk about dwarves more. No, I just can talk about dwarves more. So with the elf, you'll get the typical lithe frame. You'll get the affinity for magic. You'll get the bow. You'll get the I live for 500 years and you humans are so beneath me. And haha, look at me, I'm so rich and pompous. Wine, a roast, a feast, harp music. It's always harp music. They always have harps. Dwarves, stocky, strong built. Okay, dwarves need beards no matter what you do. Dwarves need their beards. Stocky, strong built, beards, lots of honor to the ancestors. The Book of Grudges, which I think is fun. They always live in either the mountains or a fortress, or sometimes the underground, depends. They love beer. They love meat. They love fighting. They love mining. And they love crafting. And they love Grandpa. Red Nurgle's feted blessings upon you. Or like, and if you get kicked out, that's the worst thing that can happen to you in dwarf society, which is interesting. Again, I'm gonna go on a side tangent, I guess. So, I guess because we're just as a people's, I hope, becoming more progressive as a whole. Uh, the idea of tradition because you have all been raised in Christian households without wanting to. You've been all raised in evangelical Baptist Christian households against thine will and discovered you are whatever part of the LGBT. I sound so fucking xenophobic. I guess shit. Because of this, right? I see a lot of like modern writing, and I see some D&D campaigns a lot of the traditionalists are wrong. They're stupid old fogies. Because we still use the word fogies who don't know nothing about what's changing, and we're gonna be the revolution will come and we'll oust them from their corrupt seats. Sure, those stories are fun and good, and I do like reading those stories. However, that is still painting things in one thick, blotchy coat and not recognizing like the value traditions hold like to a people or even in terms of worth, you okay, to put it in a way that is better than just you thinking of me as some sort of racist. You will not find a scientist out there who is employed who will break away from the scientific method because it fucking works, right? We're not changing the quadratic formula, and I get that that's science and that's a hard set. These are the rules, but like the point I'm trying to make is not you don't need to rock the boat for everything. Sure, still go out there and champion for your rights, but okay, now it's getting weird. The point I'm trying to make is stories where like they oust the traditionalists from their seat are kind of boring because you're painting your villains with this one broad sweeping like can it's not you're not using a paintbrush, you're using a paint roller. And it's lame as shit. Let's do let's do more stories than beyond just that. And then let's also, getting ahead of myself, not do just we tried it your way once, it failed because of X reason. We will now never swap from our ancient traditions, which have kept us safe in countless winters and a bunch of shit like that, right? Have a fucking balance between shit. I really don't like that I have to say this, but given the shit I read, that I drop quickly in because it does not keep my interest and I know where the story's going before I've even finished reading it, that I know it won't break away from these things. So we're gonna move back to the elf and dwarf rivalry again. Like how no, I swapped away from that. I just thought it was that because I talked about elves and dwarves. We're gonna move back to the your characters are caricatures argument. This is most prominent with the other non-human humanoid races. Not a human, but humanoid, human body plan. Um, this will be the worst, I think, if there's an orc character. They will literally never not love eating fire roasted meat, uh, drinking, basically all the fun of dwarf, but with like a really uncomfortable, primal, like primitive aspect to them that makes you kind of think about that what uh, parties will call them. The author goes to, uh, but uh, I'm distracting myself again. Uh, they will not have they usually don't have a character beyond that. These orcs, right? They're just, hey boss, when's the next fight? All right, call me for the next fight. And they're like, but I was going to have them be poorly spoken, and then I just forgot to do that. They're usually dull, simple creatures that only live for the thrill of the fight. Really, really going back to the old like views colonists had people. Um, and sometimes the authors are aware of it. Usually they're not, and need it pointed out. But don't be a dick about it. Also, I don't comment on anything, so I don't have any stand grounding to do in this scenario, and I immediately forgot what I was going to say because I sidetracked myself. The issue with like these characters is they don't have a character. They're just a set of tropes, basically, on them, which is what I'm talking about. I don't like the tropes. You're not really gonna be able to find much because you know the amount of stuff written by the books by the numbers is gonna vastly outweigh the stuff that isn't. So your dwarves will never really be more than just I stick to my traditions. I do not like your weird ears. I punch dirt until I find metal, and they turn that metal into armor. Right? They'll be your armorer. They're not really going to be anything else. And if they are something else, there's a good chance the something else they are is the exact opposite of the typical dwarven tropes, so that you can say, look, I didn't do it, but now we're just doing something else with no subtlety or direction. Isn't that so fun? And then the same for the elves. Fun fact, that stupid lithe elven frames bullshit. Tolkien's elves were buff as fuck, apparently. Or so I've been told. So let's do that more often. I looked at my own muscle and I'm like, wow, this is nothing. I have I'm so pale as fuck. Damn, I'm glowing and my room is dark. I'm giving off light. Anyway, but if your character's a human, they will have interesting wants and desires. They will want to see justice return to their lands for unique reasons, right? They will have opinions on things in general that are not just, well, let me look at my checklist on what I like. I like thing. I don't like thing. Why? I shrugged, you couldn't see it. Right. The main character. Well, this also goes to just like the main character works like that, but the side characters don't. But that's kind of like just a, oh, sometimes you forget. But right, because I'm thinking like, oh, if your main character is dwarf, won't they also have that? Well, sometimes yeah, but sometimes not. Whatever. Stop hedging your bets like an idiot. I slapped myself. You couldn't see it. So your main character, usually human, will actually have opinions on shit. They'll do things far beyond, farther beyond, more than just what race they are. And it's also worse when you have like a race that isn't done much, like gnomes, like I mentioned before, or like any bird race. There's no bird races. Speaking of bird races, so the birds should never have tits, because is it avians like bio? What is their actual genus? Whatever. Aviary birds. Poultry does not have tits. They're not mammals. They don't have that. So because your humanoid birds do not have breasts to feed their young, do you, dear viewer, think they would feed their young like a bird in our reality does, like a baby bird, eating the food and regurgitating it into their mouths? And if so, with that being normal in their culture, would you think that's fucked up if you weren't one of those? Would you see that and go, oh wow, that's horrifying. I need to protect that poor innocent child from this abuse that it's suffering? Because that would definitely like be a slur to throw at a bird person. It's or like a childhood playground, and so like puke eater, like that's fucking awesome. That's funny. Wait, oh, I want to write that so badly now. Same with the reptiles, but no, reptiles have teeth. And another thing to bring up, these birds, they would have beaks. I was thinking it's sexual. No, let's not put that into here. So these birds, they would have beaks. First of all, beaks are cooler. Beaks are cooler than teeth because beaks regenerate, and that's awesome. And also, you could do a lot of cool things with a beak. You can't pierce it. I don't give a shit about piercings personally. You could like paint it with cool like war bands and stripes and stuff like that. Could you imagine that? Like how you paint your beak, or like how the different shapes of your beak. That would also like have a bunch of what is it? Phrenology, that fake ass science of the skulls that racists use to justify their beliefs. That would happen to birds so quickly. That'd be funny. Uh, but no, I think that'd be a lot more interesting than. Okay, first of all, you don't see a lot of bird races in these stories because, hey, The Hobbit didn't have it, so why would I have it in my thing? Looks at D&D with Aarakocra, despite Aarakocra not having a lot of lore on them. But you know who does have a lot of lore? Drows. You know whose lore is fucked up? And, like, not like fucked up and like, oh, they're evil, that's cool. You know whose lore is fucked up in the fact that it's just gross and weird? Drow. Look up Lolth's priestesses, particularly from the older editions. Wow, that is just that guy's fetish. And I wish I didn't read it. Uh, it's back to the bird thing. What was the bird thing? Back to the bird thing. You're not going to find a lot of bird creatures. So they'll end up just being a stereotype. But here's the thing for the birds. What stereotype do they have? There's no Hobbit thing to go off of. So what are they probably just going to do? They're probably just going to fly around without an explanation why. I mean, sure, it's fantasy, but like, come on, man. Taking the last sip of this bottle of water. That's good. I personally like having these birds be like the male men, because that'd be a cool niche they could fill. Sure, that's racist, but I mean, yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? So let's talk about racism in your fantasy worlds. So racism, I mentioned it before. For some cool world building, think like a racist. I had mentioned already, like the I wanted conflict with a disease. And so I wanted the reason why it would be a conflict, because like, oh, fight the disease. That's not a conflict. That's like, yeah, let's fight the disease. Because I didn't want it to just be, oh, you wear a mask and you're fine. So where does the conflict come from? Well, tensions are high, things are strung out. Tensions are high. This is all like carried out throughout the course of a long period of time, shit like that. Like, oh, this is weird. I don't like this. This is stressful. This is unprecedented. The politicians are like, fuck. How do I shift the attention from how sad we all are? Oh, look at this. A marginalized group. In this case, it was refugees fleeing their home that got destroyed. And so what did they do? They brought the disease and rallied the people behind it, right? They weren't literally the cause of the disease. However, it was something that was a neat little plot point. And you should think like that too when you do world building, because it lets you visualize conflict and not just this is the conflict, it affects the people in the conflict, right? You see if okay, so here's another way to put it. Two drunk fucking morons fist fighting in the streets. One of them gets the upper hand, knocks the guy to the ground. He's about to start wailing on him. The guy on the ground suddenly lunges up with a knife and stabs that dude in the chest, and he slowly dies, because that's how knife fights work. You might be thinking, ah, so it only affected the man who is now dead. No, the guy who stabbed, his life is now ruined. If they had family, the guy who killed that guy, why, oh, you should have kept a tighter leash on your drunkard bastard of a husband or son or brother. And the family of the person who got killed, they're gonna want recompense. They're gonna want restitution, or they're gonna fucking kill someone of their other family as like a revenge thing. Especially if you're doing like dueling and like knights and shit. That's something they do all the time. And I know I said don't do historical accuracy unless it really is good for your story. Because the typical like revenge story is great. Like we all know a revenge story, but when I mention that little stupid brawl in the streets, it might have ended at like as a oh they fought in the streets, that guy died, wow, that's fucked up, to show I'm in the rough part of town like a bunch of shows and stories do. It can go beyond that. Again, it doesn't need to because that is completely unrelated to the main character. But the point I'm trying to make is like I showed it all out to you, and I'm presuming that you are a fool in this situation. That if I hadn't done that, you would just think, "Oh yeah, he died. That's where the conflict ends." The um, with the thing I did with the disease and the marginalized community, that like the disease affects obviously them too, but then the disease didn't make anybody say that because of what the pressures the disease put on people. That was their reaction. That went beyond the disease to being other issues as well. You should not think of a disease 2D, it should be 3D. And it should not be like, it should not be a triangle, it should be a square, and you're stacking the squares to each other. And it should not be a sphere, ever. No conflict is a sphere. Conflicts have flat surfaces onto them to slide up between other ones and stick together like a mass of a tumor. Um, what was my original point? Breaking news. Local idiot in the morning forgets his train of thought. What? Racism! Racism, that was it. So, the issue with racism in your world building is A, there's not enough of it. B, there's too much of it. Simultaneously, you might be thinking, that's stupid, you're a fucking moron, it can't be both. It can be both, and I'm here to show you why. Cool transition. So, the issue is there's too much racism. Let's go back to the dwarves and elves. Oh, your ears look weird. Oh, you're short. Constantly, with forever, throughout the entire story. That's all they'll ever say. There's too much of that. There's not enough because that's nothing. That isn't that's not racism. That's fucking name calling. And sure, name calling is part of racism, despite I don't know how I sound actually. Do I sound like I'm a minority? Because I am. I'm Mexican. I'm also Catholic. Well, I guess we are a minority in the U.S. If this is Poland, we would not be. Wow, there's a lot of Catholics in Poland. Um, I forgot what I was saying. Right. I do not sound like I'm like I could experience racism. Shit, I don't look it. I'm pale as fuck, but I can and have. And name calling is not the end of racism, nor is it being killed for being a certain race, though that does happen. Shit, I knew someone, and it was new. Uh, it, like new as in past tense, not new as in fresh. Like when I see racism depicted in my fantasy stories, it is pretty cut and dry. It is pretty. We yell at you from across the street, calling you funny words, or hey, we're gonna gang up on you and fucking kill you. It's never the small stuff I read, right? Because I read. It's never the small stuff. I don't ever see price gouging. Price gouging is a nice, easy underground racism. This sounds like I'm giving out racism tips. Well, I mean, I guess you can't in the U.S. I'm assuming that's where you are because the U.S. Like the Walmart cashier can't suddenly make that cost more. Uh, like price gouging being well racial profiling, but that kind of goes along with name calling, but it also kind of doesn't. Um, another, I immediately forgot all of the points I was gonna. The guy in my voice said, the guy in my voice, the guy in my brain said uneven medical treatment. That's a good point. You will be sought after last. You will be the last to be served at a restaurant. You will be the last person to be treated at the hospital unless you're like actually dying and they actually give a fuck about the Hippocratic Oath and shit like that. Racism in your story can absolutely be more than just weird names and murder. And it should be more than just weird names and murder. Because if it's just weird names and murder, it's suddenly very juvenile and it doesn't tackle the issue with any ounce of respect. So that that's my rants about racism poorly. The guy in my red has another racist topic. Tip. Even if the laws are not directly oppressing you for being this thing, no segregation, shit like that, they will ignore you. Yes, that's actually a good point. That's why the Black Panther Party formed. Because they were just not being seen by medical professionals. They were not being given any respect by the fucking police. Obviously, they wouldn't call it cops, shit like that. So that's a cool thing. So yes, more of this. So because like I immediately thought of the Black Panther Party, um, and I immediately thought of like militias. So you can have a black take inspiration, don't copy, and also treat it with respect. You can have like a Black Panther Party style of like social militia, I guess any of this is right. Um, like a group that was being oppressed. Um, like if especially if it's actual violence, because you can still do actual violence so long as you treat it like a topic. They realistically band together and protect each other. Yes. Th- I'm pointing that guy, like he said, not even just racism, right? It can just be any sort of oppression they face at all. If you want to have like a religious group being picked on, that's great. So the lower caste, the poor, pick hair color if you want to, but because it's fantasy, it is probably likely going to be a sort of race thing. That's not bad either, right? We all know racism. Hmm. Or religion, if gods are real in your universe, or if gods aren't real in your universe, right? That's still interesting. Uh, ugh, my throat. Uh, but you see, like how racism can be more while you're making a story than just kill that guy. 7,000 pterodactyls. Eat this man alive. Or that meme, the ones like, attention Freddy Fazbear's customers. There is a mixed race couple kissing in booth 4. Thank you for your cooperation, or some shit like that. I love that meme. I love that meme so much. Oh man, that's a great image. But racism can be a lot more than what you think it is, and a lot more than what you read. If you're a minority, you'll probably understand what I'm trying to get at, right? I'm not saying firebomb black people's houses, but I'm not saying about politicians. But I didn't explicitly say it. So, hey, I'm free. Wait, hold on. Let me just double check. Okay, yeah, I'm safe. Uh, let's move away from racism before uh, I'll get a copyright strike or something. I'm also going to quickly pause this. I'm going to go get more water and go to the bathroom. All right, I have unpaused. I got water right here. I don't remember if I said why I got up. I also don't remember what I was talking about. Let me quickly scan my brain. Right. We have officially solved racism, and we're gonna do another topic. Because I don't remember if I had a topic planned, take a sip of water. We're gonna tackle that shitty Proto-Japan setting. Now, it might sound like, given those past video and this one, that I hate the Japanese. You would be wrong. I don't know the Japanese, so I can't hate them. I do, however, hate weebs. I'm sure this is a sentiment felt by many. So, Japanese people aren't usually the ones writing these settings, or if they are, it's good. The weebs! Oh boy, the weebs are the ones writing it. And they're the ones that are not doing it well. So this will not be as long of a segment as any of the other ones. I don't know how long the segments were. Because I don't read them. Because I know what writes them. Not who writes them, what writes them. That wretched W. Oh, my mic is peaking. Also, that guy keeps talking to me, but not you guys, because I'm pretty sure I balanced these audio levels right. He's just along for the ride. Doesn't know what the fuck's going on. It's 3 over here now in the morning. Takes sip of water. So, back to that proto-Japan setting. I don't like it. Shocker! I don't like something. Whoa! Stop the presses. Ain't that something new? I don't like it because it is the same thing every time. Because you know what it is? It's not Japan. It's not even the thing I said it was, like a proto-Japan setting. You know what it is? It is medieval Europe in the Iron Age with some magic and dragons, but it also has incense, shrines, torii gates, oni, kitsune, and incest. I added that because I thought it was funny that incense sounds alike, but also let me look back. No, it has incense too. Fuck, I whatever the word is. Often of Andy and Lele moment. Is that whatever? That one game, you know the one I'm talking about. Uh, Bones. So, like I said, it's not actually a Japanese inspired setting. It is just a medieval Europe fantasy setting with a veneer put over it. Poorly. It doesn't really go into like any of their culture, or like any of their actual like deities and shit, or any part of like I used to know the names of the periods for history class, world history class. I have since forgotten them. Like the Bushido era and like the Edo era of Japan. They're feudal eras. It doesn't actually do any of that. What it does is it does humans, orcs, elves, and dwarves. This time, usually without halflings. And has them go on a quest to defeat the Demon King sometimes. And also they get a harem of girls along the way. Oh, and also the orcs are pigs, because that is a thing that in Japanese mythology, I think that's true, that orcs were pigs. Whereas over here in the Western world, orcs are, well, J.R.R. Tolkien had them as be twisted, evil elves? Elves that fell to corruption or something along those lines. I don't know if people do that anymore. Here in Wizards of the Coast, with D&D 5.5 or 2024 rules if you're lame, they made them nomadic steppe people that are kind of vaguely Mexican, and I wasn't offended. I was just sad that they changed orcs to be not fun anymore. Sure, orcs needed to be touched up, but man, were they not interesting now. Also, um, they lost that racial feature where they were better at grappling or something like that. I forgot the name of it. I used to know the name of it, but they lost that racial feature, and that was lame as fuck. And they changed Hobgoblin lore to be lame as fuck too. You know why? It's because they took out the racism. Let's go back to that racism stuff now. Let's finish off with that proto-Japan setting. Is proto even the right word? A faux Japan setting. Like I'm saying, it isn't the actual inspired setting at all, which is worse, in all honesty. If you're gonna do this with your heart, first of all. Second of all, the people who write these, okay, no, yeah, the people who write these are doing the most by the numbers, paint the books with what you see on your checklist thing ever. They've got, like I said before, the stock races. They've probably got an isekai protagonist. Like I mentioned before, I don't think isekai is inherently bad. However, this is one of those bad isekai protagonists. Like I mentioned before, they've got the shortcut black hair. Um, do they have an eye color? They have like a leather trench coat. Probably would wear a fedora if they had one. And have a gaggle of women falling head over heels over their lack of character. And and I'm struggling to find more ways to emphasize my displeasure on this little subgenre because I don't read them. And I say a lot, oh, I don't read X thing, I drop it very quickly in. I drop it at the description of the story, is how quickly I drop these. I don't read them. If you like them, Lord knows how, I'm giving you all the power to you. So you got plenty to dig through, my friend. Plenty. But it is not for me at all. So let's move from medieval fantasy and just go to like fantasy in general, because this is fantasy tropes. Uh, let's not do sci-fi. That's something else, and I got a lot to say on sci-fi. As an SCP fan, proud of it. UIU, my beloved, they need more rep. So, let's talk about steampunk. That's fantasy. So, steampunk. I kind of like it. I like parts of it. I like the aesthetic. Who doesn't like the steampunk aesthetic? That's the cool shit. That's steam. That's bronze. That's gears and cogs. It's good stuff. My back. The little the my back. There we are. Sorry, I'm stretching because I'm trying to remember to let the blood move in my body. Posture check, stand up and move around if you need to. I'm gonna start trying to put that in one of these things. So, I like the. I guess is this still Victorian era? I don't know. I haven't caught up on steampunk. I'm writing one, a little bit in the background. I pick away at it when I got time and motivation to pick away at that one. So I do like steampunk. Hell, I write it, like I said already. So believe me when I say, I mean this in my heart of hearts. Steampunk has lost the steampunk part of it. So this is going to be pedantic shit. It is no longer steampunk. It is now all powered by unobtainium or contrivium or the MacGuffin or whatever else like a word for this fantasy term. It is no longer steampunk. It is magitech. Now, this is really gonna show what kind of person I am. Even though I like Artificer a lot, yes, we pronounce it. Even though I like Artificer a lot, I don't fuck with magitech. It's not my thing. I do tech. No, I don't do tech. I do magic, or I do. Well, I guess it is technology. It's not the kind you think of. Not like cyberpunk tech, but like tech, like clockworks and gears and shit. I like the clockwork when it's not powered by a magical rock. I like the clockwork when it's powered by pulleys and crankshafts and steam. I also love the aesthetic of beating the shit out of stuff. So, I mean, hey, when you got big automatons with huge fists beating the shit out of stuff, I'm sold. But one of my biggest issues with steampunk is now no longer steampunk; it is magitech. And okay, another issue with steampunk is it has lost the punk. It has lost the punk of steampunk. So if you are, like me, a huge loser and spend your time browsing the writing related subreddits because shit, why might as well see what others are doing, you will hate the world building subreddit. You will love the world jerking subreddit. Now that sounds bad, it's just the shitpost aspect of the world building subreddit, right? I was going somewhere with this. I don't like Magic Second. I don't like fists. Where was I going with this? It is a punk, right? It lost the punk aspect. So if you're like me and you go to the shitty shitposting side of the Reddit community on Reddit specifically, you are very well familiar with the meme of my blank punk world because a blank insert adjective here or noun here and slap punk at the end of it became a huge fucking meme and still is a huge fucking meme. And they also keep saying that your fetishes to your worlds and shit, man. Maybe they're not wrong. But like, also it is shit posting. I confused that guy. Uh, just browse and you'll understand what I'm talking about. I don't mean it in like a one-to-one. Bones. All right, cool. So, the blank punk world became a meme because, as with all memes, it had a source. It was kind of like a marketing buzzword. I don't think it still is, but it was at a certain amount of time. A marketing buzzword. Not even literally just like, oh, I'm selling a real book. I guess everything is a real book. I'm selling a book and need marketing. Call it a blank punk, right? No, even indie writers would do like blank punk, right? Nuclear punk, I'm pretty sure I saw somewhere once. I don't think that's an actual thing like steampunk is. Um, the blank punk has lost its meaning, like cyberpunk and steampunk. As I'm sure you can guess, no, there isn't. As you can guess, the punk stood for something. It meant you're rebelling against something, you know, like a punk does against like social conventions and norms. Oh, I'm sure it's very clear. I know what I'm talking about here. Takes a sip of water. Uh, takes a sip of water. Remembers what he was saying. So the issue with this fucking thing is that it is no longer people rebelling against X like regime or ideals or norms. It is kind of like what it's called. Your main character isn't a union worker. Hell, they're probably noble born. I see that a lot. And I lost my pace, but you get what I'm trying to say. Punk, the blank punk, the punk at the end of steampunk no longer has a meaning to it. And sure, you didn't always need it, but it was more fun with it. Another thing I don't like about steampunk is wow, this is not bad. Is oh man, I immediately forgot what I was gonna say. Let me think, but okay, so I immediately forgot what I was gonna say. So I'll shift gears into talking about what I do like. Not about steampunk, but about steampunk's cousin, diesel punk. Now, diesel punk's the shit. You want something that's like steampunk, but treats itself with a bit more grit? You take diesel punk. The issue with diesel punk is people don't know it. So there's not a lot of content for it. And what content there is for it is in a few categories. The first category is okay, it's just World War One. It's just World War One, but again, and we're not really moving away from that. The second category is well, this isn't dieselpunk at all. That's just steampunk. You lied to me. And the third category is this is not dieselpunk. This is Art Deco, which is separate. Now I sound like a massive fucking pretentious asshole, but the the categories are there for a reason. Please stick to them. I don't want that content. I want diesel punk. I guess the war stuff can stay. It does fit. I only if you use the Brody helm though. The Brody helmet is bitchin'. That's some drip. Takes a sip of water. Right, I remembered. So steampunk was originally like it was like an environmentalist thing. It's not bad. Not in the sense of like, oh, we're using steam. We are environmentally friendly. It's like no, it was an environmental thing. That's a diesel mug. It's an imperialist thing. Because a lot of the steampunk subsists itself off of like imperialism, or at least early stuff did, with like imperialism and fighting against that. I'm a big fan of stories that do that. That's interesting. That's fun. So that's an actual plot. We don't do that much anymore with steampunk, from what I read. Dieselpunk was it has the huge environmental part of pumping tons of smog into the sky through your factories and your diesel engines. We have not done that because Dieselpunk gets no attention and nobody makes anything for it. Or maybe I need to look harder. But the point I'm trying to make is is that steampunk has become another canned backdrop. Steampunk is no longer an all-encompassing issue. It is just something you slap on when you want a brass coat of paint. And that really sucks. Let me think of another. Yeah, Mechanicus is absolutely steampunk. Adeptus Mechanicus, baby. Look at their flyers. That's the Da Vinci machine of Da Vinci's flying machine. They don't lean into that aspect at all. It is a crying shame. Lord knows they can use the help. Lord knows it could be cheaper. Not the biggest Warhammer guy, more of a Trench Crusade guy. Diesel Punk baby, even though it is just World War One. But again, but I'll overlook it this time. Yeah. If you don't know what Trench Crusade is, look into it. It's bitchin'. You'll love the art. Alright, what's the fucking what's the what's the meme? I don't remember. I was like, try the blank, darling. We're almost on to the third act or whatever. Uh, so that's what I can ramble about steampunk. Let me quickly rack my brain for another kind of fantasy trope or another kind of sub fantasy genre. I can think of nothing, but I think I can think of a fantasy trope. Uh, the Chosen One. Let's talk about the Chosen One. So, first of all, Star Wars is a fantasy story, through and through. Loser, idiot, stupid farmer baby gets finds out he's a chosen one. He gets a magical sword and is told to fight the evil king and rescues a princess, has a beast folk companion, has a little homunculus creature along with him. Han Solo's the rogue, and a few other things that I forgot. I have also never seen Star Wars. Anyway, the point I don't see anything. I'm blind. I'm wearing glasses. I am blind, a little bit blind. Um, Point I'm trying to make is that. Oh no, that was just me being an asshole. Um, so the chosen one trope is we. So we flip flop on this one a lot. Tropes become subverted, and the subverted trope becomes the norm, so we must go back to the trope to subvert the new norm. Isn't that something? So, we flip flop on whether or not we like the chosen one a lot. I think we're currently on the we don't like the chosen one angle. I think I agree, but I've seen chosen one stories where that's very fun. Usually, when they subvert it, I will admit, think of the Lego movie. And that is not a meme. Actually, think of the Lego movie. Emmett is told he is the special. He will, by virtue of being some sort of special creature, that he will defeat Lord President Business and the dastardly Craggle. However, this was all a ruse, and there is no chosen one. But this is still a chosen one story. Why is that? Because for the first 3 quarters of the movie, or maybe like it's 3 quarters? I don't remember when he gets told that there is no special. For the first 3 quarters of the movie, they play it straight, as though he was the chosen one, just bad at it. The story, for all intents and purposes, was a chosen one story. And eventually he does actually do the thing, right? So it is still he was the chosen one in the eyes of the wider narrative, though he wasn't literally the chosen one. This is usually it's usually very interesting in kids movies, the chosen one trope. So, like Star Wars, a kids movie. Fun fact. Uh, hey, George Lucas himself said he made it for 13-year-old boys. Um, what is it? Kung Fu Panda. Kung My throat. Kung Fu Panda. Ho is picked to be the Dragon Warrior. He is the literal chosen one, despite the fact he has no martial arts training. He is told he must train his body to be peak physique, and I thought of that mouse with the ears, to be peak physique to obtain the Dragon Warrior scroll and learn of its secrets. For only the Dragon Warrior may sip from the cup of knowledge. He must subsist himself with the energy of the universe and a single drop of dew from a leaf. That's from the second movie, though. And throughout the whole thing, they try to hype him up. He's a fat, slack shit. They try to hype him up, saying, "You are the Dragon Warrior. You are the greatest. You simply have to unlock it within you. You are destined for this." And then the movie subverts that trope by having there be no secret to success, all that. He's not the chosen one, he just became good through trial and error and practice and stuff. It is the typical feel good, tell yourself you can achieve anything with some hard work, even though it's not true. Story for kids. But again, the narrative treats him like he is the chosen one. That is a chosen one story, right? The same way Star Wars also is, I think. I haven't seen the movie. Um, but what I'm trying to get at is that these chosen one stories, without chosen ones, are still chosen ones, which is a really roundabout way of saying that, haha, you fools, the movies you are picking as your counterclaim to why we shouldn't have chosen ones are literally that exact narrative. I was gonna make an anime example, then I remembered, shit, I don't watch that. Um, My dark prophecies tell me there is a young boy who will defeat the evil king and bring about an era of peace. I see now. I must go kill this child and then kill him in order to prevent this prophecy. I will kill the child and then kill him in order to prevent the prophecy. Um, uh, Egads, I have enacted the prophecy by attempting this. How foolish and short-sighted I was. Like, I'm riffing on it, but that's not bad. The hubris of man, man's folly, the typical man versus man plot thing. The five act, the five act structure is bullshit, and you shouldn't listen to it. Stories are more complex than simple 5 points in a line graph. That's another topic. But I don't think it's bad to literally play it straight. I know I mentioned a bunch of subverting examples, but playing it straight as the chosen one is not bad. I think Frodo was the chosen one. Not was it whatever. I've never seen it. I'm being corrected. That's what happens when you don't watch media or interact with media. My throat. Do you guys listen to this? Do you guys know that the ring doesn't just make you invisible? It gives you what your race wants. More racist world building. Hobbits want to be unbothered and unnoticed. Humans live forever. And I forgot what dwarves get. Maybe I made that up, but I remember that somewhere. Where's my water? Fuck, I finished it. I'm I'm being corrected right now. There's more than one ring? What I keep hearing about the one ring. Anyway, so, oh shit, that is the quote. It's the one ring through them all. Isn't there a magic card that sells for? Anyway, uh, so prophecy stories. A real prophecy. Uh, because apparently the Hobbit was not that. Shit, maybe I should pick it up sometime. Now watch as I don't. Anyway, I'm realizing now my throat's sore all the time because my stomach acid is all in my throat. Maybe I shouldn't do these hour-long rants every night, is what a bitch would say. So these prophecy characters, it is not a bad idea to do this, right? You can play with the trope if you want to, or you can do it straight. Um, because soon, brothers, our time will come where the prophecy stories are the subversion of the norm, and people will long for that type of story, and we'll be ahead of the curve. I don't write those stories. Um, you'll be ahead of the curve. I tell you this dark omen. I am a diviner of the ancient of the future truth, and I gift this to you. So that's that prophecy trope. Uh, Mary Sue's. No, that's a separate thing entirely. What was I saying? I was talking about prophecies, but I wanted to get off of prophecies. I've seen one more prophecy. The prophecy says that this video will end because I don't script these. I ran out of stuff to talk about. Uh, I'll leave you on this final closing note. We must maintain the agenda. We need to hate elves. Pick up your hammers, fellow dwarves, and strike that knife here across the ribs.